If you grew up like me, and like me means you grew up in church, some form of Christian evangelical Protestant variety, there's basically two types of people. There's people within your group, within your church, and then there's these weird people, the people that we used to call the people of the world. And if your experience was similar to mine, we always looked at these worldly people with a slight sense of awe, like they were doing something that we couldn't do, and we just couldn't let it go. We had to understand what in the world all of these worldly people were doing. And to top it all off, how is it that almost all of these people of the world are way more successful at life than the people who claim to know God, the creator of the universe? It can be incredibly frustrating, especially if you're still in that environment. But one of the things we can do to understand why seemingly we can't get it together within the church, but these people, these hell-bound worldly people, seem to have no problem at all crushing, smashing their goals. And then the people in the church end up looking envious, maybe even with jealousy towards these people because they can't accomplish anything even slightly within their own life that resembles the kind of success that they see these worldly people getting every single day. Now, one of the easiest ways we can go about this approach, this perspective, is secular psychology. And it's an area where the church, most churches, most evangelical Protestants, they don't like dealing with secular psychology most of the time because that psychology has a different perspective on God, one that they feel contradicts what they feel like is taught in the Bible. But if you truly understand the Bible and you truly understand secular psychology, by incorporating both. And I'm not saying, we have to merge or some weird hybrid movement. It's not that at all. It's just a fresh perspective on Christianity. And it's going to go something like this. Christians, or people who consider themselves Christians, don't get the results they want because they're out of alignment with themselves. Think about your thoughts, your words, and your actions. They all have to flow together. If there's anything that you're saying differently than what you're thinking, or you're acting differently than you are speaking, this is called cognitive dissonance. And what happens is it's a huge contributor to stress and anxiety. And honestly, it's like a small microcosm of like a personality disorder, because what we do, we're saying the things we feel like we need to say. But in our mind, our actual internal thoughts, our actual self, are in conflict with what we're saying. Now, people of the world, people who don't give a damn about religion or any of that, any of the nonsense, it's a lot easier for them to get their thoughts, their words, and their actions in alignment with each other because they're not trying to impress someone else. They're not trying to prove with their words or with their actions there's somebody they're really not. And see, that's the problem in the church. They haven't been taught a sense of identity, a true sense of identity. Now, if we're going to call ourselves a Christian, that means inherently that we follow Jesus Christ. Now, most Protestant evangelical religions base all of their stuff on the Bible. Now, if you don't really understand what a Christian is, then a lot of times we find ourselves kind of going along with the crowd. And I'm talking about the church crowd here. We don't have a sense of identity. We don't truly understand who it is we are. We don't really understand this God that we're supposed to be following. But what we end up doing is falling in line with everybody else. We start going to the same church services as everyone else. We go to the same activities, the church sanctioned activities as everyone else. We're saying the things that we hear other people say, and like I just said, the actions that we're doing, they go right along with everyone else. The problem is we've never established a true sense of identity. who it is we actually are. Even in the Old Testament in Genesis, uh, when God tells Adam and Eve that they can have dominion over the earth, he tells them that he created them in his image. He gave them their sense of identity, told them who they were, then he told them how to act. He gave them a set of rules, something they were supposed to do and not do. And their sense of identity was supposed to be so great and so strong that their actions that followed this identity would be in accordance with what they were told by God. And what they were told by God was their identity. But people in the church, they're so consumed with getting people inside that they fail to teach them identity. They don't teach them who God is, and they don't teach them how they're supposed to be once they claim that they're following this God, this Jesus. They just expect them to start acting a certain way and speaking a certain way and not caring at all that they don't understand who it is they're representing. Now, this is so it makes so much sense now, because if you remove God out of the equation, remove religion out of the equation, and you just have yourself, you're one of these people of the world, then all you've got to do is stay true to yourself. Figure out who it is that you are. You don't worry about anything else. And once you have a sense of identity, then you're going to have words and actions that flow out of this sense of identity. Now, this identity clearly is not rooted in any kind of religion or any kind of a Christ or a Christ figure or God or anything like that. It's pure humanism. It's purely for the self, for the person. But this is a formula, and formulas exist because formulas work. And the conscious congruence that these people of the world have is really just a full 100% alignment of their thoughts. What they think is reflected accurately in what they speak, and what they speak is reflected with how they act. And this formula, oh man, I mean, you got people of the world becoming billionaires and doing all of the things that seemingly Christians want on some level. Christians don't even think it's possible to them. They'll end up thinking, oh, this is the flesh or some sort of a carnality, and that we should shun super wealth. This is ridiculous. Abraham in the Old Testament was one of the wealthiest men on the entire planet. I mean, he was like a Elon Musk back in the day. I'm serious. I'm not going to get into it now, but you guys can Google it. Father Abraham and all of his resources and how that translates in today's money. And can we forget about Job? That's the oldest written book in the Bible. And Job, I think it tells us that he was the richest man in the world. I'm not exactly sure on that, but we do know he was super wealthy. But see, we don't condemn the Bible characters. We don't condemn them for having a lot of money, for figuring out success. But we end up condemning these people of the world because we don't understand what they're doing. And all they're doing is being true to themselves and developing themselves through a personal development process. And then, after this process or during this process, their words and their actions start to flow from a true sense of identity. So, if you're someone in the church and you're sick and tired of like the success or the seemingly success of people around you, people who aren't affiliated with your religion, then I would challenge you to truly go back to the source, no matter what variant of Protestant religion, or if you're Catholic or whatever it is. Go back to the start, your identity. Who is this person that you're supposed to be? What is he about? If you can't answer that, then you're starting to understand why a true sense, a true lacking of an identity is the source of all of the problems within your church. And I don't care what kind of church it is, but we've not taught people how to develop themselves and be rooted and grounded within your religion. We're expecting them to do things and be things that they're not capable of. They can only follow this formula for so long before they get absolutely just frustrated and quit. And you can't blame them because they were not taught the basics, the absolute basics of life. We have to understand who it is that we are. If we believe that we're created in the image of an almighty, all powerful God, if we believe that we have the nature of an almighty, all powerful God, then our words and actions have to reflect that. But too many times we've sold God short. We don't understand that our source of power, what we're rooted in, we don't understand it. So we don't understand 100% how to speak and how to act. But we can change all of that. All of the success that's been demonized in your church or in churches in general, the uber wealthy, the people who seemingly can't make a mistake, and how we get so frustrated sometimes because if you're like me, you've been to a million different prayer meetings, and some old fat white man's going to stand up there and talk about how we've got blessings coming and we've got to do this and we've got to do that. And it's all like turning the Bible into some moral code or ethical rule book. And it's the most ridiculous thing in the world because the fat dude that's up there telling you how to act clearly has no clue himself because his identity. Look at it. Look at the way he presents himself. We have obesity running rampant in the church, and they're talking about quit drinking, quit smoking. Well, if they truly understand their identity and how they were made in the image of God with the nature and the creative capacity of an almighty, all powerful God, then they might start working on themselves because the identity that they have in this God is so strong that their words and actions have no choice but to follow. Oh man, who are you? What are you about? If you don't know that, then figure it out. If you're a religious person and you're upset because seemingly the success is eluding you, I would challenge you to go back to the source. Figure out the identity that you're supposed to be representing, and then you'll have a better understanding as to why your thoughts, your words, and your actions are out of alignment. Because once we truly understand our identity, once we understand why we're here and who put us here, then our words and our actions will have absolutely no choice but to reflect an identity that has been secured not only by us, but an identity that has been given to us, a blueprint that we can actually follow so that our thoughts, words, and actions can have conscious congruency, and the cognitive dissonance, this distance between who you are and who you think you should be, that starts to close because we understand the power of who it is that we actually are.